Many of you can't see me if you're listening, but I have my beer in hand because that's what you do after you run, right? You drink beer. Is that not what runners do? Is they drink beer? I don't know, because I'm not a runner, but my friend, Dr. Quirk, is a runner. She is a board certified pediatrician in Philadelphia and a coach with the Road Runners Club of America. And she is here to talk to us about running. Dr. Quirk, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a beer in hand.
Thank you so much for having me. I have a glass of water.
Now you make me feel guilty.
But I'm glad that you have a beverage.
I should be hydrating. Dr. Quirk and I have been in communication for the longest time. We've been trying to connect to talk about running because she is the founder of Mindful Marathon. Some of you may have seen that I posted about the virtual 5K that she hosted, and that was so fun to go through. And I'm so happy that she's here because she's going to tell us and talk to us about how running can fit into your life, even if you are like me, not a runner. So Michelle, tell me how you're a pediatrician. How did you even, get to this niche, however you say that word? How did this become like your passion thing that you help people learn how to become runners?
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you that that I was not always a runner. And I know you said you're not a runner. We'll talk about that later. But but I was not. I grew up and I always thought that the people on the track team and the cross country team were crazy because I was struggling to get done the mile and like huffing and puffing my way in.
Same.
So yeah. And I had friends who were runners over the years and I started and stopped. Like I tried it a lot of times, but it just didn't stick for the longest time. And, it was 10 years ago, really 10 years ago now. I was going through a pretty difficult time in my life and I had just finished my residency and moved to a new place, new job, newly married and studying for boards, like so many stressors all at the same time. And my dad was diagnosed with cancer at that time. And I found myself in a place where I was recommending to my patients and families to take care of themselves and exercise and, sleep well and eat well. And I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't doing any of those things. And so I decided that I was going to try to lace up my sneakers again and just do it for myself. And 5 or 10 minutes around the block. Like I wasn't going to do it like all the other times where I tried to go out and just run 3 or 5 miles and come back feeling defeated, like I couldn't do it. And that's really how it started. I started with 5 or 10 minutes a few times a week around the block, worked my way up and ran my first 5K, like official 5K, signed up for a local race with my husband about a year later. And worked my way through the distances, 10K, half marathon. And then after the marathon, I became like an evangelist. Like, yes, like you were saying, like trying to get all my friends and family to run and it will change your life. Yeah. And that's how I became a coach after that.
Okay. So you're going to have to work hard to convince me of that because like I said, and you will hear me say 100 times before this is over, I am not a runner. I have never been a runner. I look at people who run like, why are you doing that to yourself? You can't possibly be having fun. That can't be enjoyable. It's definitely not the best way to lose weight or build muscle. I'm saying all these things as I'm watching people run by. I mean, have you seen the meme or the little TikTok video, whatever, where there's a woman, she's like, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. Why are you running? And they're like, is someone chasing you? And they're like, she's like, oh, you're running on purpose. Oh, like, why would anybody run? Do people like, is it possible to actually enjoy running? Because I don't see it. Convince me I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, I get it because I was there. And I think, the me from 20 years ago would have thought that I was crazy and like, who is this person?
Yeah.
Running these marathons. I don't know. But I think what we go about it maybe in not the right way. Like I think some people are they're natural athletes, right? Among us. And for them, maybe it may be a little bit easier to pick up a new sport and just go and enjoy it. But for those of us who maybe were not athletically inclined, I was a dancer, like that was ballet, tap, like that's what I did for exercise growing up. So I don't know, I didn't ever think of myself as an athlete. And so part of it was a mindset shift. And the other part of it was that, I was going about it all wrong. Like, there is a way to measure your effort level. So most of us go out the door and we run like a bear is chasing us. And that's how we poop out after a quarter mile. We feel good for about 5 steps and then we poop out.
And then you're like, I hate this. I'm not doing this again.
Yes, you
Yeah,
find
that's me.
yourself, you're huffing and puffing, your legs start hurting,
Yeah.
you're red in the face, your heart's beating fast. But if you were able to slow that pace down, if you were able to do it in a way where you incorporate some walk breaks, we talk about run walk intervals, if you made the effort a little bit easier on yourself and it felt good while you were doing it, you're more likely to do it again.
So you're
And so
telling me
that's,
don't try so hard. You're basically telling
yeah,
me to stop,
yeah,
stop trying.
no, what we do is we say, start low, go slow. Start low, go slow. And people, we're not patient. Like, humans are not patient. We want instantaneous results. We want to get off the couch and we want to go run the 5K today. But that may take 3 months, 4 months, 6 months to progress in a way that feels good. So we stick with it.
Okay. All right. I'm listening. I'm here. I'm listening.
Love
And
it.
you're not twisting my arms. She's in a separate room. My arms are not being twisted. No. So, okay. So let's go back a second. Kind of the very most basic question I have is like, can anyone be a runner? So like, I'm bottom heavy. I have big old legs. I have a big old booty. And it actually does like hurt my legs to run. It always has. I mean, even when I was, fit and could run, I was never good at it. And I never felt like it was comfortable.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, I do a lot of lifestyle medicine, coaching people on how to change their lifestyle. Some people are, a lot of people are overweight. A lot of people have arthritis, some older patients who may feel like running is not the best option for them. So my first question is, can anyone become a runner, or are there people who really should avoid running?
I think, aside from certain injuries, like certain history of injuries, that we can all become runners, what I like to think about is the start line of a big race, pre-pandemic anyway. Like here in Philadelphia, when I started showing up to races, I would look at the people at the front, and I would still have that narrative in my head that I don't belong here and I'm not a runner, like the people at the front who are winning the race. But over the years now, I see where I'm at, I'm a middle of the pack kind of pace. But we have all kinds of people, all kinds of body types, amputees, like if we open our eyes a little bit, we can see our body shape out there as well. So I don't think there's any, as in terms of weight and things like that. I would say we can all be runners. And I would just say, clear it with your family doctor right before before you take on a new exercise routine, in case, there are heart issues or previous injuries that we need to know about before you get started. But I think the majority of people can definitely run. It's more of a mindset shift, but it's a huge one.
Yeah. I'm still working on shifting. So you mentioned the people at the front of the pack. So my husband is a runner. He's been a runner his whole life. He has the physique of a runner. He has the endurance of a runner. He has the metabolism. My children are great at running. And I say great at running, like what does it take to be a good runner? Because you look at the people in the front of the pack, the people who are built for it, who can do it easily, and you're immediately comparing yourself to them.
Yes.
And for me, it's a struggle. I'm embarrassed to even be out there. As cars are going by, I'm like, they're definitely judging me, and so how do you kind of get past that part? Because I could walk and they won't say anything. It'll be like, oh yeah, she should be walking, but if I try to run, I look like a crazy fool, like Phoebe from Friends,
No, you don't. I like to think
I do. I promise.
That many people who who are in their cars, I think when they look at runners, there are the people who are like the meme you're talking about, like, why is that person out at 7 a.m. running? Whether you're running or you're walking, they're having that thought. But I would also say in the running community, it's a very welcoming place. And you would think, maybe you wouldn't, yeah, you would never get along with the people in the at the front of that pack in the race, but they are very welcoming to runners in the middle of the pack and the back of the pack.
Mm.
And there's a very strong sense of community
Okay.
with runners. And so, yeah, I would encourage you to think about this. Like whenever I'm out there running, we're very selfish in a way. Like I'm just concentrating on like not falling.
Mhm.
Especially now in winter, I'm very focused on my pace, how it's feeling for me. I'm tuned into nature. I'm not so much I'm worrying about the other people on the trail, just in terms of like, are they getting too close to me?
Yeah.
Need to move away. But I don't have thoughts like, oh, that person shouldn't be running or shouldn't be a runner.
Gotcha.
Like I don't think people are having those thoughts, or at least I'm not having those thoughts.
I'm thinking that they're judging me for sure.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a relief.
No. And I would also say too, this is another mindset shift. Like I teach a lot of people how to do run walk intervals, especially when they get started. And Jeff Galloway is really kind of the person who made that popular. He was an Olympian. He's a wonderful human, but he uses that method, and he's running well into his 70s now.
Mm.
And so it's a great technique for those just getting started, those who are coming back to running after a long time off, coming back from injury,
Yeah.
older individuals. Like it's great. And we're runners too. If you're using run walk, you're a runner too. It doesn't mean like if you walk a few steps that all of a sudden you're not a runner. And if you look even running a marathon, right? Most people walk through the aid stops where they have to eat and drink. Like it's very hard to run through that whole part while you're trying to take in fuel. So it's okay if you walk. That's why I say a lot of it is mindset. Like we have these ideas of who is a runner and who is not. And you have to be a certain pace to call yourself a runner. But if I'm going a 8-minute mile versus a 12-minute versus a 20-minute mile, if we're still out there and we're getting it done and crossing the finish line, I'm happy.
I'm glad you put the 20-minute milers in there as, an example.
You bet.
So now that we've dispelled the myth that everyone is judging you and criticizing you as you're running on the side of the road or as you're attempting to run or getting into running, let's dispel some other myths. Is running is running bad for you or hard on your joints, hard on your body? I mean, compare it to some of the other forms of cardiovascular exercise. And I feel like running has kind of really been kind of pushed by the wayside a little bit recently, because especially in women's health and like in middle age women's health, perimenopausal women's health, we talk a lot about weight training as a superior form of calorie burning, shifting your metabolism, weight loss, gaining muscle strength. And so I feel like running and kind of the old school cardio aerobic exercise that we grew up on as the best way to get in shape, lose weight, improve your endurance, and burn calories. That's kind of taken a backseat to weight training. So is running still good for your body, or is it too hard on your body? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, so I have, right, you're asking a runner who loves to run. But I would say all of these things really complement each other. So, we as runners, we have to strength train too, because you need some scaffolding to be able to run long miles and build up that endurance. You have to have the appropriate scaffolding to build upon. And that's really strength training. So it's a combination of things.
Okay.
Like I'm more about finding what people love to do. So not everyone is going to become a runner and love to run, but I would encourage people to try it, because you may have cast it aside because of all of these reasons we talked about, and you may end up really loving it. Same is true for cycling. So cycling is the closest thing to running in terms of building your aerobic system and cardiovascular endurance. So it's great. I mean, lowering your heart rate and your blood pressure, getting better sleep, like all of these things. But if you love to strength train and that's what you love to do, of course, I will always encourage people to do what they love. But in terms of injury, running gets a bad rap. Like everyone's always like, but what about my knees? What about my knees?
Yeah. That's my,
And
like, I'm going to get hurt. I know it. That's why I
yeah,
don't run. No.
no, I know, but it's true. People ask me about that all the time. And the truth of the matter is, like, most people who are getting knee replacements, it is because they may be overweight and have other issues going on. It's not because of running. And if anything, running will help help you to not need new knees. But yes, of course, everything in moderation, right? Like if you putting wear and tear on your body without appropriate rest and recovery is going to lead to problems. So we talk a lot about being, in tune with how we're feeling and all of these other aspects, right? Like getting good nutrition and strength training and getting enough sleep, limiting stress in other areas of our life. So it all works together to build a healthy individual, well-rounded, not just about the running. Of course I have a singular focus there, but we really treat the whole runner.
No, but I do love how you approach it as kind of one part of a wellness plan, and not because when I think of a runner, I think that that's somebody that's all they do.
Right.
It's just it's obviously a stereotype, but when you usually see somebody, like if you call somebody a weightlifter, that's probably the main thing that they're doing. And so when you frame it like that running could be part of your wellness plan, not necessarily the only thing, it makes it kind of seem, because like a lot of people, I get bored very easily. And so if you told me that I was going to do an exercise program where I was going to run every day, I wouldn't even start, because I'm going to, not only didn't I like running prior to today, but I don't want to do the same thing all the time, but to be a good runner or to become good at anything, you have to do it kind of consistently, or at least develop a pattern where you're incorporating it into your routine kind of consistently, right? To see improvement. So I like how you framed it as part of a wellness plan, not necessarily that in order to be a runner, you have to just run. And that's the only thing that you have to do.
My former physical therapist, Dan, he used to always tell me, runners just love to run. And I think I laugh every time I think of that, but it is true, because we love it so much. But there are other forms of exercise and other things you have to do to keep yourself healthy and able to run well into the future. So I like to think of it in seasons. Like we talk about, having our short-term goals and our long-term goals. And so maybe the short-term goal is, I want to run that first 5K. Or, you have a seasoned runner who has a time goal for a certain race. And so we, work on that training cycle where it is predominantly running, but then we have a period of rest after that, where we may work on strength training and other things before we go into a more running heavy plan.
So to kind of pull from your physical therapist line, I watch people running races, and they look like they're in pain. Like sometimes they vomit at the end. People who are running competitively, they fall over as they cross the finish line. It doesn't look enjoyable. It doesn't look fun. It looks painful, and it looks like it's agony. So what are the benefits that you experience that make you want to continue to torture yourself?
Well, I will say that, what you see in terms of those photographs and, watching elite athletes would be different than watching, my experience in the middle of the pack, maybe. Yes, you can push yourself to your maximum pace in a given race, but you can also run races for fun and not worry so much about the time, especially because, most of my athletes who I coach and myself, we're not elite athletes. We're not running so fast that we're going to vomit at the end of the marathon. But I would encourage you to I have a bunch of pictures on my website in the blog from Disney races. Like those are happy runners. Like there's a lot of happy runners at Run Disney races. And like, even, you know, in the middle of the marathon, there were pictures, like the race photographers are all over the place and there's pictures and everyone is smiling even at mile 20. So it, it can feel good. It's again, you know, it has to do with your level of effort and training to a pace that is appropriate for you.
Yeah.
And knowing, you know, there's a range of paces for everyone. So if you're trying to really race a 5K and, you know, qualify for something or win in the first, second, or third in that race, you're going to put forth a much higher effort, and it's going to hurt. But if you're running at an easier pace, you'll feel nice, and the dopamine hit is amazing.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Tell me, what are aside from the community, which is clearly warm and welcoming, non-judgmental, you know, accepting of all types, what, aside from that, what is it that you feel? What do you get out of running?
Yeah, I think when I first started out, I'm not sure I could go back to the first race, like crossing that 5K finish line. You would have thought I like won an Olympic medal, you know, me and my 40-minute 5K or whatever it was. But it was just like, you know what, it took me so long to get to that point. And I set this goal and I said I was going to do it, and I finally did it. And that sense of satisfaction of like, hey, you set this goal, you trained for it, like that, there was a huge, you know, confidence boost there. And I never really thought of myself as an athlete before that. And here I was like, okay, I did this for myself. And I think that just gets magnified like along the way. It doesn't mean you have to run races, but you can challenge yourself with distances or with paces. And always, I love how I'm constantly improving, right? Like I'm always changing the goalpost. Once I improve, I'm like, okay, I can improve some more. Like, I think there's more in here before I get older and maybe have to slow down some more. But I'm still, you know, I have my own goals about going further or faster or whatever it is, but there's an incredible sense of satisfaction there. And I think along the way, our brain gets used to all of those good hormones that are you know, deployed while we're out there. So certainly, you know, dopamine is a big one. But yeah, I think I notice it now if I don't run for a period of time, or I have a period of rest and I don't get that same satisfaction and that same sense of calm from other exercise. Like, it's very unique to running, which I love.
Okay. All right. I'm buying in. What about the health benefits of running? Because cardiovascular exercise, we know, has so many benefits, but specifically, what does running do to your body? How does it change your body structure, your metabolism, your nervous system, your endocrine system?
Yeah, I think so. Big with cardiovascular exercise and building your aerobic endurance. There's lots of great benefit for blood pressure and lowering your resting heart rate. So when you take that all together, it will reduce your risk of like heart attacks and cardiovascular events in the future, which is wonderful. Now, in terms of, I like to talk about stress reduction and reduction of burnout and things like that. Like, those are probably not as well studied in the literature, like for running specifically.
Yeah.
But anecdotally, like in my athletes, I mean, people tell me even after just a couple of weeks of a regular running routine, they're sleeping better, they're calmer, they're more focused. They're like arguing with people less, like they're with their family, at their job, like they're calmer. And so I have to think that that's related to dopamine, serotonin, and all of those neurotransmitters. And yeah, I mean, I've had people go off of medications. Usually blood pressure medication is a big one. People have lost lots of pounds between them. I don't necessarily keep track of weight as a metric, but yeah, it can definitely change your body shape, building muscles, especially in the lower extremities. And usually with running, we end up doing some strength training along the way. So all of that together, it's really a lifestyle change. It's getting people started and making it so that it's easy to stay consistent. So we're trying to make a lifelong habit. So if you run for just a week or a couple of weeks, sure, you may not see your blood pressure improve that quickly. But if you've been running for a year, and people's cholesterol has gone down, like in the lab work, it's amazing. But it's an investment of time. Like it's not going to happen in a week or two.
Sure. So if you're committed to kind of developing a consistent practice of running, then you're likely to see the long-term benefits. Obviously, the cardiovascular stuff is huge, directly related to, weight loss, which then decreases your likelihood of insulin resistance, obviously decreases your visceral fat, and therefore changes all of your endocrine hormones, how your body produces and processes glucose. For women, especially menopausal women, we always talk about you have to break down bone to build it up. And so running as one of those weight-bearing exercises where you're actually pounding the pavement, your bones are breaking down and therefore building stronger bone behind it. So those are kind of some of the things that I think of when I prescribe running for patients, in my practice, and in the past, I have to be honest, I've really only prescribed it for people who express an interest in it, who people who, like you said, come to me and say, can I run? Can I get involved in running? Am I clear to run? Am I okay to run? Because people kind of default to swimming as like the least, the lowest impact, but best cardiovascular type of exercise. And so I haven't honestly prescribed running, like I said, except for people who have asked for it as a specific, attempt to improve their health, their numbers, their weight, their blood pressure, their cholesterol, all of those things. So I do love the health benefits of running. And I love what it does to your muscle tone. We know that you can change your metabolism and make your body a more efficient calorie burner by building muscle. And running certainly does that. In addition to melting away fat, you can actually build muscle with running. So let's talk about how to start.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are going to say, okay, Dr. Quirk, you say I can be a runner, but I have no idea where to start. I can't even walk to my mailbox without getting short of breath. How do I start?
I would say if you're starting from the couch and you haven't even done much walking yet, that's one group of people. I would say start with walking. If you can get into a regular walk routine, that will go a long way toward getting you further to a run routine. So start with walking. And then if you are a walker, I do have a lot of people who are regular walkers, and I would say my mom is one of them. She's a brisk walker, real fast, and she has great endurance. Like she will go for 3 to 5 mile walks most of the days of the week. And to get her started to run, we call it the mailbox technique, where you're out on your walk. You don't need any fancy equipment, right? You're out on your walk and you do your walk for 10 minutes, and then you're going to do a very short interval of jogging between mailboxes in your neighborhood. And I get questions like, well, are we in the city? Are we in the woods? How far is the mailbox? Like, okay, I'm thinking like a 10 to 15 second jog.
And there are interval timers that you can use on your watch to kind of get the same effect, but a mailbox is a great visual.
Yes. And you can use, lamppost, stop sign, just stationary objects so that you're getting, you have some visual cue. How far am I going to go? And you jog. And again, the pace, you don't want to go at the pace where the bear is chasing you. You want something comfortable where if I was next to you, we could carry on a conversation. So you don't want to be that huffing and puffing, just a very easy jog. And then you get to the next mailbox, you walk again for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then you try to jog between another set of mailboxes. And that's an easy way to incorporate it into a walk routine. Now, if you want to go a little further, you were talking about the interval timers. Those are great. If you want to start run walk intervals, you can download a free app with an interval timer. These are often used for HIIT workouts as well. And it will vibrate or ding at each interval. So you can set it. For someone's just starting out, I would start with maybe a 10 or 15 second jog and a 30-second walk. and see how that goes for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
don't start by signing up for a 10K and running with no practice.
you can definitely sign up for a race, but make sure that it's far enough in the future to give yourself time to train. So, it's great. I love people who sign up for the race goal and maybe 4, 5, or 6 months down the road, and they have that's what they're working toward. And I think that's great. But yes, I wouldn't sign up for it and then try to do it the next day.
Yeah, that was my mistake. And that was the last time I actually attempted to run. And it was when I decided that I just am not a runner. And but clearly I went about it the wrong way. And clearly I've been going about it the wrong way my entire life. I mean, logically, I know that running will be beneficial for me. And you're right. When I do get out and walk, when I feel so much better, so much calmer, so much more energized, sleep so much better. And I definitely feel it on the days and weeks where I don't. Like when I was just on vacation and did virtually no exercise. And while the rest was great, definitely feeling the lack of energy. You feel more sluggish, you feel more easily like lower mood, more easily annoyed. So all of the things that you were saying definitely apply when you are more consistent. And you can start to feel it even after a short period of time being consistent, for sure.
Yep.
What about, what about walking versus running? Like you mentioned using walking as a means to become a runner, but are there any particular advantages of running over walking, or is being a walker, enough?
I think it has to do with your personal goals. Like walking is great exercise. And like for my mom who is walking 5 miles 5 times a week, that's great cardiovascular exercise. And I know her doctor's always like, I cannot keep up with you, So she walks like a 13-minute mile. She's fast. And so, for her, like she likes to do a little bit of jogging. Like sometimes, we'll sign up for a race together and do it together. But I think it's about your goals. Not everyone has to run, but if you're open to it and you want to try it, why not? And, that's fine if you want to walk. But I think, people don't always, they have all of these limiting beliefs that we're talking about, and they cast off running that it's certainly not for them, but maybe they haven't really given it a good go. So I'm just encouraging you to dip your toe in the water, give it a try. Maybe you do. And you can walk all of these races that we're talking about. Like if you're a regular walker and you want to kind of see what the running community is about, you can always walk these races. There are lots of walkers.
Yeah. When I think about running in terms of its health benefits, I wonder if there is a plateau. Like, for example, your mom who's walking 5 miles 5 times a week, the body has memory and remembers what you're doing. Their muscles remember, you're using the same muscle group over and over again. And your endurance, from what I understand, your endurance can reach a plateau.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to continue to get positive benefit, once you plateau, then you have to change. Is that right? Can you explain kind of plateauing?
Yeah. What we do with training. So when I write a custom training plan for an athlete, it takes into account, right, all of your personal factors and your history with running and injuries and things like this, and what your goals are. Now, if you are trying to change something, like maybe you get stuck where you're trying to maybe improve your 5K time, for example, but you've done a couple of training cycles and over the last year you're really not improving your 5K time. Why is that? So you can do a couple of things to change up the training. Maybe we're not doing enough strength training, or maybe the speed intervals that I wrote, maybe I need to adjust those a little bit. But yes, you have to change. We talk about change the stimulus, because the body can get used to it. And so if I always write the same interval workout, eventually we're going to get to a point where we don't get that much benefit. So there's a few weeks where we have to teach the body to get into it, but then you change things up so that we're using different muscles. We're going at a different pace, or we're going further. But yes, you change the variables along the way so that we don't reach that plateau.
So you don't necessarily have to just keep either running faster or running longer. You can change the way you run in order to continue to, to benefit from it.
Yeah, that's like the 301 course. We went, that's if you've been running for a while and you get to that point, usually by then you do have a coach who you're kind of getting the feedback there where, hey, I'm not getting faster, or I'm not able to do, what I thought I would be able to do. So how can we switch up the training? But it doesn't mean you necessarily have to, pick up another sport or stop running. But we change the stimulus.
Okay. Let's talk about shoes, because it can be the make or break, if you're trying to become a consistent runner. Having the wrong footwear can easily be the thing that keeps you from going back out time and time again. So talk to me about what kinds of shoes, or what is your approach to the right footwear for someone who is trying to get involved in running?
Yeah. A lot of people ask me about sneakers and, what's my go-to sneaker? What's my favorite? And what I encourage everyone to do is, if you want to go out today or tomorrow after you listen to this podcast, it's okay to use what you've got in your closet. It's fine. But then this weekend, take yourself to your local running store if you have one, and get fitted for a pair. So most running stores will have a treadmill in the store, so they can, you try on the pair and they'll ask you about your running history. And, if you've had injuries or foot issues or anything, they'll look at your feet, they'll have you go on the treadmill and have a look at your form and recommend a few pairs for you.
Okay.
And one of the things for newer runners, and I know this was the same for me, the first time I went into the running store, I felt very intimidated. Like, I don't know what to ask. They're going to laugh at me.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't run anywhere, but I went around my block. But I like to tell, everyone that they are really the shoe experts, and each brand of shoe, it changes. So sometimes they'll have the same model for a few years and then they make changes to it. And the people who work at the store know about these very minute changes that they make in the sneaker. Okay. And so, they want to get you fitted for a good pair of shoes and have you get hooked on the sport the way I got hooked on the sport, so that you keep going back there to buy more shoes, because they wear out after like 300 to 500 miles. You have to change them out.
The thought of even running that many miles
So my go-to, also it changed for me over the years. Like, for a period of time I wore one particular kind, and then I had a foot injury that was unrelated to running. I tripped in my garden and sprained my ankle, and so now I wear a different kind of sneaker to give me a little more stability in the ankle. But so they will ask you about your history and everything. But yes, take yourself to the running store, and that way it also I feel like people will look on Amazon and they get quickly overwhelmed because there's like thousands of options and you just don't know what to pick, and so they just give up and then they never go out there.
Or you see something that's cute or that makes your foot look good and you're like, this is the one I'm going to pick, and it's the opposite of ideal for running. Yeah. Or comfortable. So you mentioned in the store that there's a treadmill. So that brings me to kind of the question about what is the best type of surface to run on. I live on a gravel road, which by my end of the road, which is the very end, the rocks are not very well packed down. So it's really bumpy and rocky. I mean, there's grass on the sides, but it's pretty bumpy. For someone who's beginning, is a treadmill a better way to start? Road, track, grass, gravel? What's the best way? And are there any differences to the quality of run that you get or the comfort of the run that you get with those different surfaces?
I think the answer for the person just starting out, it's whatever is easiest for you to be able to get it done. If that makes sense. Like if you can run in your neighborhood, so you don't have to drive anywhere to be able to get your run in, I think it's more likely to get done. Yeah. If you have a treadmill, if it's getting dusty, great, and in terms of if you have a preference, concrete and pavement, right? It's a little less forgiving than soil, grass, trail. With that said, if you run on trails, there are other fun things like rocks and
Snakes.
snakes, downed trees and things
Sure.
that you have to pay more attention to. So I like to mix it up. I would say I like to mostly run on trail. It's a combination of trail and sidewalk, but this is different for everyone. With the gravel, you may find that that's uncomfortable for long periods of time. But if it's a short period of time, it might be okay.
Yeah.
And a track is very comfy to me, but I also get bored going around the track. So they're all kind of things to factor in. Like it might be nice to switch it up where, one day you're doing sidewalk, one day you're on a trail, another day you're on the track. You can just switch it up. And if you have a treadmill and you have bad weather, that is clearly the right option.
Yeah. When I'm in my most consistent, because I walk is really what I do. I mean, if I'm feeling like energetic or like I want to, try something new, I'll, run between mailboxes, where my son, he'll come out with me and he'll like challenge me to sprint, kind of like a hit, get your heart rate up for a little bit and then let it come down. But what I found helps keep me consistent is I spend a lot of time driving my kids to their different sports and a lot of time waiting for them, in the school pickup line, waiting for dance to end. And so sometimes, especially in the spring and the fall, when the weather is nice and they have their outdoor sports, I can kind of pick up and walk while they're at their sports. Added bonus is I get to watch them for the last, 20 minutes of their practice. And so I'm, present with them and engaged with them, but I'm also using that time instead of sitting in the car, getting my walk in. Yeah. And now that brings me to the question. I have so many questions. That brings me to the question of, so how mindful do you need to be when you're running? Your business is called Mindful Marathon. Your coaching services are under that name. And I'm just thinking, like, I like to multitask. Like I said, when I'll go for a walk during practice, but that's usually like in a park or, around a school. So I have kind of the ability to run on a smooth or soft surface. But I also will listen to books or podcasts or news while, in my ears while I'm walking. So how mindful do you need to be to get the most benefit out of it? Is this something where you need to really be paying attention, especially if you're like on a trail where the terrain is a little bit trickier? Or is it something, because for me, the time goes by faster and I feel like it's less difficult if I'm distracted with music or books or something else. So is it something where it would be better to focus on what I'm doing? Or do I get a better workout if I'm focused on my form and, the terrain? Or is it okay to listen and multitask?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I think you're definitely not alone in that many people want to listen to music or a podcast or a book and kind of tune out while they're running.
Yeah.
I encourage you to give it a try. I say like tune in. And I used to run with music a lot, and I used to listen to podcasts and books as well, but I don't do that as much anymore. For people just starting out, I think it does help to tune into how your body feels, to really tap into that level of effort so that you're not going overboard. Like it's very easy if you're listening to music to run at the pace of the beat of the music. And that can be, a good or bad thing, but you might end up going faster than you should for where you're at. So I encourage people to kind of, give it a try, even if you unplug from the music for 5 or 10 minutes, just to see how it feels in your body. Like, am I huffing and puffing? Could I talk to Michelle if she was running next to me? Yeah. And for me, like, we live in the city. And so I feel like I want to have all my wits about me when I'm on the trail, just like who's coming, like there's a lot of cyclists on the trail. So I tend to run without anything. You do have to be mindful, right, of your feet on the trail. But if you're in a very, if you're running around the school or in a safe place on the track, it's a little bit easier to tune out. But on the trail, I just like to say I like to tune in, but this can be different for different people. But just give it a try. Like if you are someone who loves to go with music and tune out, just maybe try it 5-10 minutes, see how it feels. Gives you
Yeah.
good feedback.
My outdoor workout playlist is usually like the angry driving beat music. I kind of feel like I don't know, it like pumps me up a little bit, like gives me a little bit more energy. And you're right. I definitely find myself trying to walk to the beat of the song. Yeah. And that, that can be more strenuous. In addition to being on a gravel road, I live in a very hilly area. So I find myself kind of, struggling on those uphills, and the music definitely motivates me to kind of get through some of the more painful parts of the workout or the uncomfortable parts of the workout. Mm-hmm. But the benefits of being outside, like you were talking about, like being in the natural light, breathing in fresh air, listening to the sounds and the sensory inputs that are all around you, that can be really calming and can almost, I think, maximize any workout, whether it's running or just being outdoors and working out. I think maximizes the benefit that you get from your workout. So I love that idea.
Lots of wildlife on our trail. Lots of ducks, mallard ducks. There's a beaver. I call him Bruce the Beaver because I love Bruce Springsteen, but every once in a while he makes an appearance, and he's huge and he's fast and usually scares me out of the corner. I'm like, what is that thing with the huge tail? Oh, it's Bruce the Beaver. So
it is, it's fun, and I find myself, because you have your phone with your headphones, you're listening to music or a book or, a podcast or whatever. And I find myself stopping because to take a picture or to just be aware of something, because, I'm noticing things that when you're in the rush of your day and you're just trying to get from place to place and accomplish everything that you need to accomplish, you're not as present and you're not as aware. And so it's kind of funny because I will take a lot of pictures when I'm running or when I'm walking. And it's funny because I'm like, I'm supposed to be walking, and yet here I am stopping to, video the deer or the snake that's crossing the road, like, so I can show my kids when I get home, like, you're not going to believe what I saw when I went out for a walk. So I think that's really cool. And it helps for sure with mindfulness and being present and being aware, utilizing our senses to make a better experience in your day. I mean, you're already exercising, you're already outside. What better way to kind of cap that off than to just be really present and observe kind of what's around you. I live in a really remote area, like a dead end gravel road in the middle of the woods. And so for me, it's really peaceful to be out there. Maybe 1 or 2 cars will pass by. Maybe I'll see another human out exercising as well. So it's definitely really, really relaxing. I think personally, I would probably be more frazzled to be running, downtown where there's a lot of people. And so I think you're right, trying to kind of find for your personality what would be the best experience, what would not only be a good workout, but would also be a, kind of comfortable experience. It's definitely going to make you more, want to do it more, right? And be more consistent with it.
Yeah. Just finding ease with it, however you can, if that means, something that is like falling out of your bed and getting outside or getting on a treadmill. Different for everyone.
I love it. What about working out with a partner? What about with somebody, maybe who's a different skill level or different experience level? How can you make that work so that it's effective for both people?
Yeah, this is a great question. My husband's a lot faster than I am. And so what we tend to do, you can do a couple of things. One would be if you want to go on your workout together, your walk or your run together, you can, start at the same time and finish at the same time, but not necessarily cross, do the same amount of distance together. You just meet back up at the end and go for breakfast, something like that. The other option is that the faster person slows down. It's not really a great option for the slower person to speed up. So they'll be going too fast and it will hurt, and then they won't want to do it. So if the faster person is willing to slow down and do maybe what would be an easier run for them instead of like a speed workout, that can work very nicely. So you default to the easier pace. That's what I want to say. And then sometimes people will run with someone who cycles. And that can be interesting. So if you have one who's a cyclist and one who is a runner, you can make that work.
My 6-year-old.
There you go. So you
I
can make that work. You can get creative.
I can run, walk while she bikes. I mean, she's a good biker, but
Yep.
I definitely can't run as fast as she can bike.
Well, but she could also do loops or like
Yes.
go up and back.
Yes.
Yeah, but you can get creative with it. But if you want to run with someone, it's best if you could find someone who's around the same pace. But if you have someone who's faster, who is willing to slow down, it works just fine.
Okay. All right. I'm definitely buying in. We're like, we're into it now. I'm thinking my mindset has shifted. I have to have a more positive attitude about this. Last question I have for you is, are there any like tips or tricks in terms of form to be aware of? Like, do you just go out and run? I mean, we're naturally, like, we know how to run. Everybody knows how to run, but is there anything you should be aware of with your body, with your cadence, with your form, your positioning, anything in particular that you recommend as you're getting started that can make for a better experience?
Yeah, when you talk about cadence, that means the number of footfalls per minute. And so there's an ideal, like we talk about 180 cadence, but many people aren't touching the ground 180 times a minute. So it's different for everyone. And when you're just starting out, it's probably going to be a lot lower than that. There are apps that can help measure your cadence and things like that. I think when you're first starting out, I would just, you can always look up on YouTube, like proper running form. And I believe Jeff Galloway has some great ones, great videos on it. But I wouldn't, everybody's, how their foot hits the pavement is different. If you're a heel striker versus a toe striker versus a midfoot strike and all of these things, everybody is different. And there's runners who do all of those things. So you don't want to try to make it a certain way. Like, you go and do it the way it feels comfortable for you.
Okay.
And then as you go along, a physical therapist would actually be the best person to do a form eval for you. If you really get hooked on the sport, and you want to go there for some tips on how to improve it. But for just starting out, if you can find what your cadence is, just so you have a baseline where you're starting, and do what's comfortable for you. And then we can try to improve the cadence. We can try to make improvements in the form over time. But if there's too many things to think about at the beginning, I think lacing on your shoes, getting a good pair of sneakers will go a long way for most people. And then once you get hooked on the sport, then we'll talk about more in nitty-gritty about form and cadence.
You are a coach. You run Mindful Marathon. When is a good time to get a coach, and what is the benefit of having one?
Yes. I think a coach would have been very helpful for me when I was starting out, but I only thought at the time that very experienced runners would have a coach.
Yeah.
I thought maybe only like professional athletes had a coach,
Sure.
I think. But all of these, tips and tricks and things we learn along the way I would have gotten, I would have progressed a little bit more easily and more quickly had I had a coach early on. So even if you are just starting out, a coach is definitely an appropriate thing for you. I offer one-on-one coaching, and I have a group program for beginners.
Cool.
So that's probably going to launch again in the fall. We will see. And if you want to dip your toe in, you did this as well. I had a virtual 5K in the fall, which was a big hit. And I think that was a good sort of gateway into it, into the running community. And it was a really fun event. So we're going to have that again in the spring. I'm kind of planning for like a spring and a fall. And if you want to get started, right? If you want some more tips, there's a workshop on my website. It's called How to Get Started and Make It Stick. So yeah, give it a look. And if you're coming from the couch, like really coming from the couch, and you're not a regular walker, there is a walk plan that you can download also. So you can start with the walk plan and then watch the workshop as you get going. It'll help you get started.
Thank you for all those free resources. That's incredible. The running community, as you describe it, and as I've kind of witnessed through watching other people, seems to be really, really wonderful, really well established, really supportive. There's a ton of resources out there. I mean, I've seen people running, throwing color powder at each other, wearing tutus and rainbows. And, it really does seem like it can be something fun that you would want to participate in. And it doesn't seem like it has to be what I had in my mind prior to this conversation, someone dragging me down with cement blocks tied to my legs and torturing me to the finish line. So I'm so grateful that you shared all of the fun tips and tricks and dispelled some myths about running. I hope that my friends who are listening are going to go to Mindful Marathon and learn some more from Dr. Michelle Quirk about how to become a runner, how to become better at running, how to get started. And I'm not going to run now that this is almost finished. Maybe I'll start tomorrow, but I promise you, you have changed me and I am going to start. So thank you so much for being here. Hopefully we can do part 2, maybe something like for advanced runners in the future. But I really do appreciate all that you do and for sharing all of your experience and wisdom with my friends.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm glad that I inspired you.
We'll talk again soon, Dr. Quirk. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.